I live half the year on Necker, a tiny island in the Caribbean, and it's always full of people in party mode. Everyone comes up to the big house, and will be dancing until the early hours to the island's band, the front line. If you are a small company taking on a big company, you need to have a sense of humor. We've always had a pretty competitive and pretty ferocious battle with British Airways. It's lasted now about 14 years, and we're very pleased to have survived it. I think, because I started Virgin when I was a teenager, it has become a part of me, like my family, and I am motivated by ambition for it, almost as if it were a child. Like getting into a bleeding competition with a blood bank. When I was a kid, I had a tendency to criticize. But when I did, my mum would whisk me off to the bathroom to stand in front of a mirror. 10 minutes, never less. To think about how criticism is a poor reflection on the one who criticizes. Well, we know that people in Australia love the idea of both Impulse and Virgin Blue getting up and adding a bit of competition, and it's fun to be able to deliver it. It's rare for a startup to make money immediately, so you need to make sure that you have enough saved or that you have another income stream that can support you. I don't think so, in that Virgin is already a global brand. Brands like Amazon have had to spend hundreds of millions of pounds, building their brands, whereas Virgin is already well known around the world. I'm not the sort of person who gives up on things. The first time we crossed the Atlantic in the balloon, it crashed, and we went on and did the Pacific. First time we crossed the Atlantic in a boat, it sank, and we went on and got the record. So, generally speaking, we will pick ourselves up, brush ourselves down, and carry on. Especially when you're at a high level in an organization, criticism can be devastating to an employee. I prefer to praise employees for what they're doing right, and it tends to lead to them doing more of the same. Not always, but it's the way I choose to bet. There's no point in starting a business unless you're going to make a dramatic difference to other people's lives. So if you've got an idea that's going to make a big difference to other people's lives, then just get on and do it. Ridiculous yachts and private planes and big limousines won't make people enjoy life more, and it sends out terrible messages to the people who work for them. It would be so much better if that money was spent in Africa, and it's about getting a balance. I cannot remember a moment in my life when I have not felt the love of my family. We were a family that would have killed for each other, and we still are. There's nothing like the endorphins from being fit, and the incredible endorphin rush that goes with that. The jet stream is a very strong force, and pushing a balloon into it is like pushing up against a brick wall, but once we got into it, we found that, remarkably, the balloon went whatever speed the wind went. As more airlines consolidated and grew larger and more focused on the bottom line, flying in the US became an awful experience. Despite moves to block our airline from flying, Virgin America began service in August 2007, with the goal of making flying good again. I love the freedom of movement that my phone gives me. That has definitely transformed my life. I think it's good for a woman to put on a bit of weight when she gets older, it looks better. But a man has to stay balanced. The funny thing is people won't let me pay for things. I'll be in a restaurant and the manager will say, "Oh no, it's on the house." I'm a lad of the 60s. I started a magazine to try and end the Vietnam War, but it was a number of years before I had the profile, the financial resources and the time to do more. I suppose Virgin is an unusual brand in that I suspect we're the only way of life brand in the world. We're one of maybe the top 30 best known brands in the world, yet if you look at the other 29, they all specialize in one area. Whether it's Google, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, etc. They all generally specialize in one area. So I've seen life as one long learning process. And if I see, if I fly on somebody else's airline and find the experience is not a pleasant one, which it wasn't in 21 years ago, then I'd think, well, maybe I can create the kind of airline that I'd like to fly on. An important priority for me as a business must get their own house in order. Be or become an agent of positive change in your own enterprise and adopt responsible practices to eliminate the risks that often lie at the root of inequality and poverty. For a successful entrepreneur, it can mean extreme wealth. But with extreme wealth comes extreme responsibility. And the responsibility for me is to invest in creating new businesses, create jobs, employ people, and to put money aside to tackle issues where we can make a difference. My philosophy is that if I have any money, I invest it in new ventures and not have it sitting around. With the casino and the beds, our passengers will have at least 2 ways to get lucky on one of our flights. And you know, I've had great fun turning quite a lot of different industries on their head and making sure those industries will never be the same again, because Virgin went in and took them on. I'm a bit like the Queen in that I don't carry much cash. Although I've been living in the British Virgin Islands for some time now, I have never stopped caring passionately about the UK and its great people. We're introducing separate rooms with double beds in all of our planes so people can actually go with their partner and have a proper night's sleep. Most people would assume my business success, and the wealth that comes with it, have brought me happiness. But I know I am successful, wealthy, and connected because I'm happy. I read everything, but generally more fact than fiction, especially autobiographies and biographies. I've read Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela at least twice on holiday. Every time, I'm totally awed by his vision, strength and forgiveness. I feel honored to have got to know him and his wonderful wife Graça over the years. Had I pursued my education long enough to learn all the conventional do's and don'ts of starting a business, I often wonder how different my life and career might have been. As a father and now a grandfather to 3 wonderful grandchildren, I know how magical the first year of a child's life is, but also how much hard work it takes. Being able to spend as much time as possible with your loved ones is absolutely vital, especially early on. You never know with these things when you're trying something new what can happen. This is all experimental. My father Ted fought in North Africa, Italy, and Germany during World War II. My grandfather survived the horrors of the trenches in World War I. I truly believe that one of the EU's greatest achievements is that it has kept its members out of the conflict in Europe. With Virgin, I've just loved creating things. And as a private company, I can get away with moving Virgin from records to airlines to train companies to space companies to whatever, without ever having to worry about analysts knocking the value of my stock. Can you imagine what a different world we will live in when businesses do what's right for the communities and the environment in everything they do? Right now I'm just delighted to be alive and to have had a nice long bath. Well, the odds must be against anybody being able to fly around the world in a balloon on the first attempt. All of us who are attempting to go around the world in balloons are effectively flying an experimental craft because this craft cannot be tested. I've been very lucky. I come from a very close family. We're one of the only animals in the world that don't really think of ourselves as animals, but we are animals, and we must respect our fellow animals. Be willing to use yourself to get out there and put the company on the market. If you have to make a fool of yourself, make a fool of yourself, but make sure that you end up on the front pages, not the back pages. In time, it's possible that your company will stand out from the crowd, and you'll be successful. I would be lying if I didn't admit sadness that our wonderful airline is merging with another. Because I'm not American, the US Department of Transportation stipulated I take some of my shares in Virgin America as non-voting shares, reducing my influence over any takeover. So there was sadly nothing I could do to stop it. Fortunately, we're not a public company, we're a private group of companies, and I can do what I want. Taking bold action on climate change simply makes good business sense. It's also the right thing to do for people and the planet. Setting a net zero GHG emissions target by 2050 will drive innovation, grow jobs, build prosperity, and secure a better world for what will soon be 9 billion people. When exploring London, you will come across lots of excitement by chance, so try to take everything in rather than just rushing around to all of the major tourist haunts. I love Notting Hill and Westbourne Grove. There is so much life and vitality around Portobello and Ladbroke Grove. It has come up a lot since I started Virgin more than 40 years ago, but there is so much character. When hiring somebody, I never ask to see a curriculum vitae. I feel that since I didn't have one myself, it would be a bit presumptuous to ask to see anyone else's. As a teenager, I went to Bali a lot, but it's a long way from England. This is why, when we bought Necker Island, we made it like a mini Bali. We believe that within 5 years, 96% of British consumers will have access to the internet, whether it be through a personal computer, a set-top box, or a mobile phone. I think it's quite great to set yourself a big challenge, and then you've got another reason for keeping fit. Back when I was in school, few people understood dyslexia and what to do for it. My teachers thought I was lazy and not very clever, and I got bored easily, thinking of all the things I could do once I left school. I couldn't always follow what was going on. We, as I say, we go in and shake up other industries, and I think, we do it differently, and I think that industries are not quite the same as a result of Virgin attacking the market. My mother was determined to make us independent. When I was 4 years old, she stopped the car a few miles from our house and made me find my own way home across the fields. I got hopelessly lost. Nobody's ever called me Sir Richard. Occasionally in America, I hear people saying Sir Richard and think there's some Shakespearean play taking place. But nowhere else anyway. I always find the time to exercise, kite surfing, tennis or cycling, and to spend time with my loved ones. There is no way I would ask others to go on a Virgin Galactic flight if I didn't feel it was safe enough for myself. We are going to transform Britain's rail system from the worst in the world to the best. If you can do a few things like that, when the body gives out, you can say you've lived a good life.